All right, so I'm here in front of the Warwick Acoustic booths. They have the APERIO here. It's a $20,000 electrostatic system. $30,000 electrostatic system. For those of you who don't know, Golden Sound here has his own version of it, which is a bit of a different tuning. Is that right?
Yeah, quite a different tuning. There's a good 8 to 10 dB or so difference in places.
There we go. So I'm just going to tell him what I thought of it because I just heard it, and he's not going to be allowed to say anything about it, okay? I heard the original APERIO first. In the booth here, they let us compare it side by side. The original APERIO, I thought, had a surprisingly intimate sound stage to it. It kind of felt a little closed in, almost a little bit like the HD600, but not so closed in to the sense where you feel like you're, claustrophobic, right? The imaging is quite nice on this. You don't get a 3-blob view, of course, but obviously it's $30,000. That's the minimum you expect, right? I found the tonality is quite nice as far as, high-end exotic stuff goes. It feels pretty natural in general. The treble is a little over-sharpened, though. I think you do get a little bit of a sibilance there, but once again, still quite manageable overall, in my opinion. Bass is good. Now, the mid-range is interesting because I think when I compared it to the Golden Sound version, I started noticing there's a little bit of honkiness in the original APERIO. I would say somewhere around like the 700 to 1000 hertz, just a little bit of an elevation there, right? But when I go to the Golden Sound Edition, that's where I notice it being cleaned up. So speaking of the Golden Sound Edition, then I think the biggest thing I noticed first off is the big bass elevation. I wouldn't say it gets to bass head levels, but it's approaching there. So if you like your bass nice and big and impactful, that's what the Golden Sound Edition offers. And once again, the mid-range, I think because of the way the bass is tuned, it also helps clean up a bit of that mid-range tuning. So to me, it sounded a little bit more natural, a bit more coherent, especially for vocal performance. The treble doesn't become quite as sharp. It's a little bit shaved down in terms of that sharpness. So it becomes even more manageable. Like it wasn't like the first one was even too sharp in a sense. So what I will say is that, just listening to the music that I would say the Golden Sound version would be better suited for if you like tracks with a lot of bass energy, a lot of vocal presence for sure. So a lot of rock tracks, pop tracks, that one is where I think it would really shine. I think the original APERIO does have its strengths in terms, especially for instrumental type of music, not so much a lot of vocal presence where you don't need as much of that deep bass presence, right? So a lot of flamenco or just, virtuoso.
String plucks and
Exactly,
stuff, yeah.
extra string plucks, right? Where that extra sharpness in the treble gives you that imaging and you don't get that much of a sizzle with the hats and cymbals. And I do think, because of doesn't have as much bass, it doesn't mask some of the layering. So I did find the APERIO to have a little bit better layering. If you have $30,000, you know what you want to buy. So you don't need to tell you, but that's kind of my sense of things.
When you mentioned the bass, the interesting thing is that the bass itself actually hasn't been changed all that much. But when you're talking about the mid-range, when you clean up that kind of mid-range stuff and the sort of overall ear gain profile, you can make the bass sound a lot tighter and more punchy without actually messing with the bass itself too much.
Right. Are the amps for this the same, or is it really just the headphone itself?
No. So there are new drivers, but then the bass unit as well is different. The analog boards in it are completely different.
All right, there you go.
Taken, the most time to develop.